Welkom bij de podcast Energie in Business en leuk dat je weer luistert, want in deze podcast gaat het alleen maar over de mens. En waarom doe je wat je doet? Ik ben daar super nieuwsgierig naar. We hebben gesprekken over bewustzijn, over eventueel een bedrijf van iemand, persoonlijke verhalen, spiritualiteit, energie natuurlijk. En mijn doel is met deze podcast om diepgaande en boeiende gesprekken te voeren, zodat we eigenlijk zien dat we niet zoveel verschillen van elkaar, dat we allemaal op dezelfde manier gemaakt zijn. Het is absoluut niet mijn intentie om het een reclamepraatje te laten worden voor degene die ik interview. Want ik geloof namelijk dat we pas echt interessante dialogen gaan krijgen wanneer we de diepte ingaan en ons richten op het leven zelf. Heel veel plezier. Vandaag ga ik in gesprek met Chris Westfall. En Chris is mijn buddy uit het programma wat ik volg met Michael Neal. En hij begrijpt hier nu natuurlijk geen ene moer van, maar ik ga nu over in het Engels en dan betrek ik hem erbij. Hello, Chris.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for saying yes to my invitation to be here to have a conversation about, we don't know what is going to be unfolded, but it's amazing.
Well, we never know where the conversation is going to go, but I'm here to look in the direction of discovery, and I'm very curious what we might discover in the course of this conversation. So thanks again for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you.
Thank you. Can you just introduce yourself, what you are doing?
Sure. The way that I would start to introduce myself is I would say that first and foremost, I am a writer. Since the pandemic, I've written 9 books, one of them under my own name, and then 8 others as a ghostwriter or a writer for hire. So people hire me to help them with their writing. And I'm also a writer for Forbes, which is an international magazine, I guess, online website that originates from the United States, where I'm based. I'm based in Texas, where I live with my wife and a very needy cat. We have 2 grown daughters. My oldest daughter lives in New York City, and my youngest daughter is a student in Austin, Texas, at a small university called St. Edward's. But in addition to my writing work, I am also a keynote speaker, and I travel all over the country and sometimes to other countries to deliver speeches and help people with communication skills. That's been a big part of my life and my work. I don't know if I'll demonstrate any of those communication skills today. No promises. But I do help people who want to communicate more clearly, and that's a big part of my coaching work too. Like you, I'm a coach, and I help people who are trying to find a little bit of ease inside difficulty and challenges, whatever those challenges might be, related to business, but also related to life and just expansion. And my clients are people who want to find a way out of frustration and a way to make a bigger impact in their lives. And, I don't know that I have any answers in that regard, quite frankly. I'm the first to raise my hand and say, I don't know. But from that place of, I don't know, and I don't have your answers, I'm very, very interested in helping you to find them, if that makes sense. And so that's my approach as a coach, and I suspect it's yours as well, is that place of service and heading into the unknown. Because here's the thing, and you know this, every book ever written always comes from the same place, and it's a blank page. And that's true for a business plan. That's true for the relationships that matter to us. I mean, where do they come from? And when we understand that what we are creating is coming from the unknown is not something to fear. It's something to embrace. It's something to explore, because that's where opportunities are. That's where clients are. That's where new books are. That's where our ideas come from. And instead of trying to figure out that process, how do thoughts work? How can I control my thoughts? No. How can I experience the unknown in a way that isn't uncomfortable?
Mhm.
So that's kind of a long introduction, but this is what's showing up for me, sort of the work that I'm creating, the place where I'm creating it from, which is, by the way, this is Houston, Texas. That's where I'm based. I'm based in Texas. This is my home studio. And the clients and the service that I'm trying to create is really helping people to go from the unknown to bring something into form that they haven't created yet, that they haven't brought to life, and doing so in a spirit of service to help them to find a life that's more full, more rich, and filled with greater ease. That's really what I'm on about.
Mhm. I have nothing to say about that anymore because it's like, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. And the land, it's so funny because we were just talking about my book coming out in English.
Yes.
And I have a sort of a poem and it's called Land Beyond I Don't Know. Because in the land beyond I don't know, there's so much creativity. There's you can find everything over there. But it's
Mm.
so incredibly scary to go there.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be. And if you're writing about it, I'm sure you're trying to encourage people to find some
Yeah. Yeah,
some
because
courage.
often when people say when you ask a question, the first thing is what people say, well, I don't know. And then we say, okay, but when you look at it again and when you say, what would be a different answer than I don't know?
That's so interesting that you say that. I think that I don't know is probably one of the most powerful phrases in English or any other language. And I'll tell you why. In fact, I saw, I don't know if you've seen this, but it's a TED talk from a guy named Tom Chi. And Tom Chi is a former scientist at Google.
Mhm.
And you can find it. It's TEDx at Sea. And Tom Chi, his last name is CHI. And he talks about how knowing is the enemy of discovering. And if we're busy knowing things and knowing what it is that we know and quoting chapter and verse of the things that we know, we lose our ability to discover because you can't do two things at once.
Yeah.
You cannot go fishing and ride a bicycle. You cannot play basketball and play the piano at the same time.
Yeah.
And you may say, oh, people can multitask and stuff like that, but things that require your true and complete involvement, such as playing the piano or going fishing, these events are mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
And
And
when
it's
we are,
also the word knowing is also the word it's knowing is knowledge,
yes,
which comes from the outside, but there's also a knowing from the inside. It's like the wisdom. And yeah, for me, it's the knowledge from the outside is often blocking the knowing from the inside.
I've experienced this too.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. And when I'm busy looking at the things that I know and feeling comfortable with what is known, I'm not I'm not visiting new places. I'm not entering into new conversations. I'm not having I'm not, there's not room for that new thought. There's not room for that wisdom, that inner knowing to uh, to express itself.
Mhm. Yeah, there's no room for it because it's all occupied by should I do this or what was it? What was it? What was the theory? What was those kind of things? But it was interesting. Before we were recording, we were talking about you were asking how I was, and I said, well, I feel so calm. I feel so calm. And even when I do a lot, and then you said, well, I have the same. I looked at my calendar and I had a lot of things to do, but I feel calm. And
Yeah.
I think that's what it is when we are in that knowing, that inner wisdom, then there is space to relax and to really experience what is happening on the outside without the story we make of it. Like, oh, I'm so busy, of oh, I don't it was exhausting, or no, then it's all it's a bit separated, but we can enjoy what we have done, even when it was boring or something like that. We can enjoy being bored.
Absolutely true. And the thing that shows up for me and the discovery that I've been making is that, for the longest time I was chasing circumstances. If and it was kind of like an if then statement. If I have this, or if the world goes according to my plan, then I'll be happy, or I'll be satisfied, or I'll be, I'll finally calm down and be able to meditate, or whatever, right? And making these kind of minor deals all the time with myself and with the universe, like looking at the universe and going, if you'll follow my plan,
Yeah.
and of course the quote that I love is man plans, God laughs. And what has shown up for me is that whatever the plan is, I'm going to use quotation marks, whatever that plan is, it's not up to me. It's not up to me. Sure, I put things on my calendar. I am a planner. I'm guilty of that because I want to sort of influence what I'm trying to create in my life. And there seems to be a need for some things that need to be done, that show up, that need to be done. But the way that I show up in order to get things done, when I'm at my best, when I'm at this place of ease and calm, it's exactly what you're saying. It's dropping the story. It's dropping the negotiation with God or the universe or life force, or call it Bob, whatever.
Yeah.
But you know what? And when I get rid of these if then statements, when I get rid of the story, when I say, who am I beyond the words? What shows up for me is a person who is focused on service. And that's when, and you and I have talked about this, that's the experience of life living through us. And when life is living through me, I'm getting things done. And my calendar's packed, but I'm not stressed because I don't have a story about how it's stressful. It's just life. It's just life. And it's living through me. Like your book, like Poetry for Entrepreneurs. I mean, that book came through you. It came through you. It wasn't a plan. I mean, it wasn't where you started off and you said, it's going to be this many pages and it's going to be, and I was telling you, I've done a lot of writing and stuff like that. And I remember my first ghostwriting assignment, I sat down with the author and we planned out everything. And we did it, in fact, here in my home office, 2 rooms away. We sat and we, on little sticky notes, we pasted them on the wall and I took pictures of it. I'm like, we've got it. Here's the outline. And then I did something crazy. I started writing the book. And here's what I discovered. Chapter 3 didn't come from our outline. It came from chapter 2. And you go, where'd chapter 2 come from? Chapter 1. Where did chapter 1 come from? A blank page.
Yeah.
I mean, we had ideas, but I called them an outline. I called it a structure. I called it a plan. But once I got into it, which is not to say when I write it's chaos or anything like that. No, but once I got into it, I followed where the intention and the story and the themes were leading.
Yeah, there was no thinking in it.
Correct.
Perfect thinking.
Right. And certainly not the thought of like, well, what was posted on the wall? What about what the wall? I mean, and the thing that I've come to ask myself is, why am I working for an agenda or an outline when, if I allow it, and I hope this doesn't sound too crazy, the power of the universe can come through me?
Yeah.
And I hope that people aren't, listening to this and go, boy, that feels really grand. I'm talking about the power of the universe, the thing that's making waves hit the shore, the thing that allows us to digest our food. It's more than just science.
Yeah, it also makes you breathe every day. Makes you wake up, open your eyes every day.
That's right.
As simple as that. And how was that journey going for you? Was it always like that, or are there always?
No, I had to take my hands off the wheel, kicking and screaming. And sometimes I still want to, have that control. Yeah. But I mean, look, if an exercise that folks can try if they want to is to sit down and write out all of the things that you control, that are really within your control. And you'll discover in that exercise that you'll identify things that look like they're in your control, but you realize that they're not.
Mm.
What you control is how you show up, and the actions that you take, including the reactions that you take.
Mm-hmm.
That is where control starts and stops. And the rest, I mean, I was very busy making up jobs for myself and obligations and things that were my responsibility. And just looking at the universe or God, or call it whatever you want. I don't want labels to interfere with what I'm trying to point at. But where I would sit there and say, no, I've got this. This is my job. No, what time the sun rises and how many waves are going to hit the shore and where that flock of birds is going, that's not my job. And it's easy to see that. But what about the other things, the day-to-day details of my life that I'm trying to control?
Yeah, or
And
when you were
and
talking about business or about money or about clients or about your content or a new client, then immediately the control freak gets in. I had that. And I and
really,
I've talked with more people also from our mastermind who are coming from all over the world, and they all have the same thing. So I presume you had the same thing as well.
it's been my experience. Absolutely. Yeah, if you say, because sometimes people come to me and they're like, I don't know where my next client's going to come from. I don't know where I don't know where the money's going to come from, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs that are trying to pitch their business ideas. In fact,
Yeah.
I've got several clients that I'm working with. They're trying to talk to investors and gain money. And they say, I don't know where that money's going to come from. And the answer is it's going to come from wherever it is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to speak in riddles. I'm trying to say, if you think it is your job to squeeze money out of people,
Mm.
I mean, you hear the lunacy in that statement.
Yeah.
What is it that we can do? The answer is to show up in ease with kindness and compassion for ourselves and for others, because the way you show up is what creates the world around you. And for me, showing up in service, showing up with curiosity, showing up in a way that says, what does the universe have for me today? That's not an abdication of responsibility. That's not me saying, bring me chaos. It's understanding how things work.
Mm-hmm.
I have clients that find me. I have no idea how they find me. Oh, I watched a video. Well, what made you watch that video? What was that? And what from that video made you and not others have the spark to reach out? It, this is
And it's wonderful also to don't give a fuck where it comes from. That now, okay, but I don't have to worry about money. I don't have to worry about where my clients are coming from, because I know they are coming because I'm showing up in the way that I have to show up, in the things I have to do.
so true.
But how was it for you? Because I can remember for me it was bloody stressful, because I wanted to grab the world, grab the life that I was living, grab the business I was having. Although I was working with energy and consciousness and everything.
Right.
But this topic, my business, was serious shit. So I wasn't bringing my consciousness into my business. And I don't know how it was for you. Was it for you the same?
100%.
You were working also that way?
Right. It was exactly the same for me. And I was having a conversation with a coach of mine. And I was sharing my frustrations, and I was saying, I need to take control of this in my business. And I need to somehow, it's if our friend Michael Neal, he says, if it's got to be, it's up to me. And I
Yeah.
was really stepping into that space and finding nothing but frustration. And my coach, she's a surfer in Southern California, and which is very different from me. I grew up in the Midwest. I'm from Chicago. I live in Houston. I'm not a surfer at all, but I was fascinated by her perspective. And she said to me, Chris, have you ever been out in the ocean? And I said, yeah, of course. And she said, so you know how waves work, right? And I said, well, What do you mean? She said, Chris, in the ocean, you can go out there, you can kick your feet, you can kick furiously, you can paddle, you could do whatever you want, but the wave always comes to you.
Mm. Wonderful.
And I went, what? And I'm no surfer. I'm not an ocean expert by any means, but yes, I've been in the ocean. And yes, you know what? The wave always comes to you.
Mhm.
So in this context, if you're on the beach watching the waves aren't going to impact you at all. You're just watching them. You have to be out in the ocean. If you want to surf, you need to have a surfboard. These things are just
Yeah.
useful,
Yeah.
but recognizing that the wave comes to you can help us to see a facet of life that we forget.
Yeah.
We forget that the waves are not our job.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah. And what you were saying also, when you have the ocean, when you are lying in the ocean, when you are still in the ocean, when you are floating in the ocean, and you only have your head above the water, you can float, then nothing will happen. You won't drown, you will float. And when I did that, and I was starting to think, oh my God, how long am I here? How far is shore now? And then immediately I'm sinking.
Sure.
So I think that's so powerful, and it's also in relation to what you are saying. So when you are start to think, to use your personal thinking and to make yourself important in, oh my God, what's going on? Taking back control, then you sink. Nothing else will happen. You will drown.
Our thoughts are heavier than we realize sometimes.
Yes, that's what it is.
Indeed. Indeed.
They make us sink.
They do. I think that the ability to just find some space to zoom out and notice the way that the world, and in fact, if I can be so bold, the universe is working.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had experiences where it's felt like the universe is trying to stab me in the back, and the universe is not. It's because it's not my plan, and the way that things are unfolding are not what I wanted. But the truth is, the universe has my back, and it
Mm-hmm.
has yours, and it has the collective back of everyone listening to this, or who's sharing in this conversation with us.
And
And
even the people who aren't listening to this, the universe is backing their back.
that's right. That's right. Whether you hear our words or not, this is how it works.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And which is a beautiful thing. There's really nothing to convince anyone of. It's simply an observation. And I've observed and experienced that when I see that the waves are coming to me, and I do what I can to make sure that I'm in those waves, because that's within my ability to influence.
Yeah.
That's when life gets really interesting. And that's when life feels full and easy, and I'm not sinking, because contrary to what I often believe, the ocean has much more power than I do personally, and it can not only lift me, but it can lift ships. And I mean, the power of the sea is extraordinary, and look, every metaphor has edges, but I think that talking about the ocean is really useful to understand that there is a power that's available to all of us, that is flowing through us,
Mm-hmm.
if we choose to recognize it. And the way that we recognize it is to not fall into the trap of the thoughts and the thinking, and where am I in relation to the shore and stuff like that, to find a little bit of grace and compassion, where we focus on not our calendars and our obligations, but on our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Because the path to this space that we're talking about, this uh, this place of a power that's bigger than you and me, the way that I experience it is as a feeling. As a feeling, not as a thought, not as an obligation, not as a 19-step plan, right? Or a chapter outline for a book.
No,
It's
yeah.
do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally get it. It's like it's the feeling, but it's not. It's difficult to also say because a feeling is also a feeling, but the feeling is for me. It's like wow, it's way deeper. It's like yeah, it's expanding continuously, expanding, and it's empty, but it's filled with so much creativity, so much love, so much warmth. It's like, oh, you can hang in there. I'm
Mm.
being carried by that.
And it can be hard to describe because we use words to express ourselves, but I mean, if you for me, what we're talking about, the feeling, is beyond the words.
Hmm.
It's beyond the words. It's where life is living through us, and and within that experience, there are impulses and things show up and creative expression, and it's again, it's the difference between trying to control our lives and understand that we're part of the ocean, that we're made of the same stuff as the ocean. And that's part of why we float. Um, and to find some grace and some compassion, not as a matter of faith or belief, but just as a matter of observation of what is coming through us, and experiencing that feeling that everyone has experienced. We all have this sort of inner guidance system that we've all experienced. And you know people wonder, well, how do I experience it more often? And are you talking about is this a flow state, or what is it that we are? I really would, for me, as someone who likes to put labels on things, and uh, maybe that's the writer in me or the fool in me, I'm not sure. But these labels don't serve. What's beyond the words? What is that sense of, as Michael Neal says, who you are when you aren't on your mind?
Hmm.
And that is a place where, when I experience it, it doesn't matter how much I'm doing or what obligations I have. I show up differently, without a story around them, without the words, without the labels, and life becomes more pure.
Hmm. Yeah.
In my experience, that's what the experience is like for me.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I relate to that. And when I try to put words on it, it's like I'm trying. That's it. I'm trying. And when we try, we're out of the feeling.
Good point. Very true.
But it's expansive, and it's not with obligations, not a to-do list. It's not a how-to. It just is.
It just is. And this is so interesting, because I was this last ghostwriting assignment that I was working on. I was working with a brilliant guy, Canadian author,
Hmm.
and he wanted to outline, and we did outline a process that's used in therapy circles called integrated family systems, or IFS.
Hmm.
And it's this elaborate structure that basically says human beings have multiple facets, which is true. We all have,
Hmm.
and inside of us, there are many parts. And these parts, from time to time, can take over and can control our behavior and stuff like that. Well, and there's inside the structure, there's 5 P's and 8 C's, and it's this elaborate. Yeah, I mean, we talk about the 3 P's, or the three principles.
Yeah.
This, I think there was 5 P's and 8 C's, and so I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, this kind of feels like alphabet soup. But this was when you're hired to create the story, you listen intently to the author and you create the message, and he had an experience where Integrated Family Systems, IFS, helped transform his life and brought him out of depression and everything. And so anyway, long story to say, when we have these various parts that can take control of us, what we have to do, according to IFS, is to come back to ourselves. In fact, the author says self with a capital S, like this self, which I go, okay, I see where you're going there. But I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at my keyboard and go, boy, this is a lot. This feels like a lot of planning and structure and to-dos and identifying your parts, and then how do you communicate with them? And really, this what he's trying to say is to come back to self. So I said to the author in a Zoom call, how do you know when you've come back to self? And here's what he said. It's a feeling. And I said, my brother, I got you now. I got you. And isn't it interesting that we go through all of these steps and processes? And I'm not denying the usefulness of IFS. I'm not in any way. I mean, there are many paths to a similar destination. Yeah. But where this guy was going and the guts, the crux of the book is that what we are seeking is that feeling of wholeness, of oneness, of understanding that we are part of this universe. It's not that we are separate. We are made of the same materials that compose the ocean, the planets, the stars, if you want to be that grand. But it's been easy for me to see the perfection in the design of nature. A flock of birds flying in a perfect V. How does that work?
It's amazing.
Right? It's amazing.
One is stopping and then the other one is going in the front, and it's amazing.
And they don't have a corporate structure. They don't have an org chart.
No. They don't have a GPS. They have an inner GPS. Yeah.
But the thing, and this is what you and I have been talking about and what we've been experiencing as part of this mastermind that we're involved in. We have an inner GPS too. Maybe it doesn't tell us to fly south for the winter, but it points us in the direction of something larger than ourselves. And in the direction of possibility, the direction of curiosity, and in the direction of what life wants to bring to us, what the waves want to bring to us. And, finding space and some silence and some clarity to access this feeling can be, well, that's why I've hired coaches. That's why I'm in the mastermind. And that's why people come to me, is to journey together, just like we've been doing, to experience the journey from a place that says you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not the only person in the world.
Yeah, but that is what we think. And with school and the knowledge, the tree of knowledge, is we are set to think that we have to think about things, and it's not that we cannot trust the inner wisdom. We cannot trust the things which come up, and that's why people are coming to me too, because they are so caught up in their head. They are very intuitive. They are very, they're very sensitive, but they are so caught up in their head. So also they are seeking the feeling, and they know what the feeling is, but they get caught up in their head because the outside world is more powerful than the inside world.
Until it isn't.
Until it isn't. Until they really realize, but I'm creating this reality. I allow these thoughts to show up in my reality. Okay, so I can change it. That they really find the power to change. For me, it was really powerful to just say no to the thoughts I had. Just, we also, in Coachland, it's often said, you have to make boundaries, boundaries to other people, boundaries to your job, boundaries to your agenda, but you have to have boundaries for yourself, for your thoughts. And we often forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. That's very true because any creation exists within boundary. I mean, think about on the road, there's boundaries on the road, but I can take that road wherever I want.
Mm-hmm.
Here in the States, I could drive to Canada, I could drive to Mexico, I could drive to California, you know, but yet there are some boundaries. And for me, the boundaries that have shown up, thanks to some powerful coaching, are kindness and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Those have been things that have been missing because I've I think I've made it my life's work to be hard on myself, to make things more difficult. And as the saying goes, it's never more difficult than it is in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been an experience that I don't know if you've had that, but like, when you're playing the conversation, you're like, she'll never say this, or I'll never be able to, or this is going to be a disaster. And then you go and you experience the conversation, or you go and you experience a new place, or you go and you make some transformational change in your life. And guess what? It's nowhere near as difficult and as horrible as you've imagined it. The key is to
Can you
understand.
imagine all the time you spent?
Oh,
I spent so much time rehearsing conversation, rehearsing presentations, rehearsing. Oh my God, it took a lot of time, a lot of energy, and it was exhausting.
it was. I can really relate to that. And some rehearsals useful,
Mm-hmm.
some preparation. I think the key, like anything. I mean,
Yeah, but not in
chocolate's
your
delicious.
head,
It's a
not in your
question of
head like,
degree.
yeah, but not in your head like, okay, I'm going to say this, and those person are going to say this, or in a training, people will respond like this, and it's always the worst case scenario.
That's right.
It's terrible.
That's right. I'm going to do. I'm doing 3 days with a company in Nashville, and I'm doing. So I'll do a keynote for them, and then I'll do a training afterwards. I kind of know what I'm going to say in the keynote. At least I know my themes. I've
Mm-hmm.
got some ideas on the training, but then the next day I'm doing 2 hours with them. And if you said to me, well, Chris, what are you going to do? The dumbest thing, the least useful thing I could say would be to tell you what it is that I think I'm going to do right now, 10 days before the event, with people I've never even met yet.
Yeah, so you don't know.
And the key to what I'm about to do is to instead of be like, oh, I don't know, I need to plan something. I'm insecure. I don't, is to look at it a different way, which
Mm-hmm.
is to say this and see if any of this feels untrue. I can create in the moment what those people need. And if I create in the moment, rather than trying to create it now and tell a story about strangers I haven't met, that's that's going to serve them best, I don't know. But in this context, I've got 3 days with them. I'll spend 2 days with these folks. I'll get to know them. I'll understand their puts and takes and their challenges.
And you
And
don't
if
know
I
what happens, in between now and 10 days. Maybe there's another hurricane coming. You don't know.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and we have to be people of our time, which is not to say, we need to be muddled and no good prompts for Chat GPT. No, I'm saying we have to be in touch with something that's really, really powerful.
Yeah.
And it's called right now.
Yeah.
And when we understand that we have the ability to create and that all creation actually comes from right now, and we can use right now to plan, to rehearse, but the most useful thing for me, for what I'm about to do and create, is to not try to imagine and do both parts of a conversation, which
Mhm.
I'm a Gemini. I've been doing that my whole life. I'm like, what would you think? Well, I don't think it would work. And it always ends badly. And the conversation in my mind, when it starts to turn into a nightmare, that's really a good time to wake up
Mm.
and to
Yeah,
just
because
say, you
yeah,
see what I mean?
yeah, but it's also, it's so sad that you're not using the time when you are here right now. You are blocking the things that the waves who wants to come right now. But when you're so caught up in your head about something, what has to happen in 10 days, and you're busy with it right now, you don't see what's coming to you right now. So you're not in the now. You're already 10 days ahead in a virtual meeting.
And what shows up for me right now, I mean, I hate to quote the Beatles, but let it be.
Mm. You know, they were so incredible, powerful in their lyrics.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder, did they know how powerful it was?
Well, I'm no expert on the Beatles, but I mean, I've listened to Paul McCartney talk about how he woke up one morning and he had a song in his head that he thought he had heard before, and he played it for John Lennon. He said, "What's this song? What is this song? I know it's existed before." John's like, "I've never heard it," and he played it for Ringo. I mean, none of the guys had heard it, and the song he was playing was Yesterday.
Oh, and is the movie Yesterday based on that?
On that song.
Wow.
And that was what it came to him in a dream. And we were talking about that before we hit record, about writing something and then looking back at it and going, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? And the answer is the unknown, this metaphorical sea, this GPS, this guidance that's inside of all of us. And when we give space and grace to ourselves to let it come through, I'm not saying that we're going to write yesterday or the next yesterday, but what we have the ability to write and to do and to design and to build is the thing that life is trying to express through us.
Yeah. Yeah, life is pulling us forward, but you have to get out of the way. Your personal thinking has to get out of the way so life can come through you. And when I first heard that, I thought, well, yeah, sure. It doesn't work that way. But it really works that way. That's how we're made.
It seems too simple. It seems counterintuitive, because everything we've been taught is you have to work, you have to strive, you have to struggle, you have to genuflect, you have to be at church on Sunday,
values,
right?
very important values. I had a coach in the States, and he said, "What are your values?" And I had my values, of course, the most important values: honesty, respect, and I don't know how you say it in English, but to show up, to show up and to do the things you have to
Be
do.
present. Yeah,
And
sure.
then he asked me, well, are you doing it for yourself? Are you honest with yourself? No. Are you respectful with yourself? No. Are you showing up for you? No. So these values were just a projection from others, and for myself, my thinking, how I would like to show up and how that people would like me. And
Right.
then I came up with other values who I really live, and those are learning. I love to learn. I love to put everything into learning. Light. I want to be light. And simple. Everything has to be simple. And then when I look at my book, it's like, oh yes, that really reflects me. There's a lot of white, and it's simple. And people learn from it. And so wow, it's amazing. This morning it hit me. I was talking to somebody, and then she was talking about my book, and I said, well, I was talking about my values, and I said, oh my God, those values are right here. It's learning, it's light, and it's simple.
Say more about light. What does that mean? Bringing light to the darkness or illuminating? What do you mean by that?
By light, I mean by light I mean it's not heavy. Some
Oh,
people
lightness, like I
lightness.
see.
Yeah, lightness,
Like a
like
lightheartedness. Yeah.
yes. People, I don't. I've had it, with the heaviness. It's okay. I want to bring light to the world. So to be light, in my being, light in my thinking. Yeah.
Right. Boy, that makes so much sense. And as you were saying before, away from the seriousness.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's yeah. and being able to face life with a smile. And sometimes that's not a grin. I mean, it's a smile in your eyes. It's a smile behind your eyes
Yeah.
that points towards gratitude and the ability to just to to I mean to laugh at ourselves and to laugh at our circumstances instead of taking things so seriously. And that's not to say that, when tragedy happens, we just need to laugh. No. But seeing that there is a way to show up even in the midst of incredible difficulty and hardship that makes things easier.
Mhm.
And that easier way is not some it's not some motivational statement. That's what's on offer. That's easier is available, especially when life is difficult. When we see that, we are not alone. We are not our thoughts. We are the dreamer, not the dream. We are not the nightmare. We are separate from. And looking beyond our thoughts and our words is as simple as a feeling.
Amen to that. But that's what it is.
Well, I'm curious if you open that little white book in front of you,
Mhm.
what poem you would pick, because I would love to hear something, because I know you wrote the original in Dutch, and this is just the new translation that your daughter did.
Yeah.
What
Just
what's your favorite? What one shows up for you as something that, if you don't mind, if I can turn the tables and ask you to
yeah.
read.
Okay. I will do that. I'm just gonna look where it is. Um, 30. Land beyond, I don't know. I love that.
Ooh,
The land beyond, I don't know, is uncharted territory, where there is no clarity yet, where the world and the obvious end. The area where almost no one goes because they don't know it exists. There are no signposts, just a desire to avoid fuss. A place to explore, with or without a map, with or without a guide, a deep dive into yourself. What do you have to lose? What are you afraid of? Who will care? What certainties can you leave behind? The land beyond, I don't know, a magical land where you are the ruler and the pawn. Ease and peace are not static. They always move with you. So, even in the land beyond, I don't know.
I love that.
And
Wow.
it really fits the conversation we had.
It absolutely does.
Mm.
And we give ourselves the freedom sometimes when we go on holiday or vacation, as they would say here in the States, we give ourselves the freedom to just explore and let things unfold. But
Mm.
in the world of work, families, relationships, obligations, we go, no, 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 this is much more serious.
Yeah,
We can't
that's
just
it.
let things unfold. We can't go into this land beyond, I don't know.
Yeah.
And what your poem is saying and pointing at and sharing is that we all can. We don't have to let uncertainty create discomfort. It's it's the land beyond I don't know is where opportunities are. And quite frankly, where we find ourselves as living our lives and doing our things, but as if it may sound bold, but as if we're on holiday, as if we're
Mm.
letting things unfold in a new place, in a new space that's always available.
Mhm.
That point of view is there, and it's not a 6-step process to access it. It's simply noticing and understanding. And from understanding comes a new way for us to show up, which is your third
Yeah.
value.
Yeah. And it's in the land beyond, I don't know, there's the feeling. It's the land of the feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And and it's funny when you said holiday, in English, the holy days, holidays, the holy days.
Mm.
So how would it be if every day was a holiday?
And if those, like you were talking about boundaries before, if those boundaries were boundaries of that reflected a reverence, when you say holy days, there's a
Mhm.
reverence. And if we have a little bit of reverence, which, and please don't interpret that as arrogance. It's not. It's not thinking we're anything other than who we are, which is to say, a part of this divine universe, a part of this design, and seeing ourselves not as separate from nature, but a part of nature, points us back towards our human nature, which is what for me shows up in the land beyond. I don't know.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. I think we can continue hours talking about this.
Indeed.
Maybe we will. But I would like to thank you for now for exploring the I don't know and the feeling and everything. I want to thank you a lot.
Thank you for a conversation that is, I mean, I just appreciate your insights and the journey that you've been on, and to be able to share a little bit in that journey with you and with whoever finds us talking about these things. Your perspective has made a difference for me, and I want to say thank you for sharing your poem.
Thank you
Is
very
that
much.
it's beautiful, it's meaningful, and we were talking about this before we hit record too. I mean, when writer to writer, when the story of one of us becomes the story of all of us, I think we're on to something, and that's what I heard in your poem. So thank you for sharing that and allowing me to be a part of the conversation. It means a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. En jij ook weer bedankt voor het luisteren en tot een volgende keer. Dank je wel weer voor je aandacht. Je aandacht is tenslotte je kostbaarste bezit. Dus dank je wel dat je jouw aandacht hieraan hebt willen besteden. Ik ben ook benieuwd wat je ervan vond van dit gesprek. Laat vooral even een comment achter hieronder of stuur me een berichtje. Je kunt mij vinden op www.yvonnevandis.nl. En daar kun je ook een heleboel blogs vinden over spiritualiteit, ondernemen, bewustzijn, energie. Nou, you name it. Er staan ook een heleboel gratis trainingen en mooie e-books. Leef je uit en ontzettend dank en graag tot een volgende keer.